Are the red heifers still qualified or not? Was a real qualified red heifer sacrificed on July 1st or not? And many other of your burning Third Temple and red heifer questions answered by Eliyahu Berkowitz, who is a senior journalist for Israel 365 News. He is an inside source to the Temple Institute, and he is the bridge between Christians and Jews on this very important topic. Just interviewed him today and got all the answers. Check this out.
The red heifers are explicitly written in the Torah. It is used to purify. The ashes are mixed with water, and esov hyssop is used to sprinkle it on Jews, and it purifies them from what we call tumat met, proximity to a dead person, which is the most extreme form of impurity, and it allows us to go up to the Temple Mount to serve God. So non-Jews do not become impure. They do not become ritually impure. So it doesn't really do anything for them. To be honest, there are so many other elements required, and we don't have to build the temple. People get very confused about that. We don't have to build the temple, but we are required to begin the temple service, begin the offerings. The fact that 50,000 people a year are going up to the Temple Mount now, the fact that we actually have all of the temple utensils. We have everything we need. We have the priests who are learning. We have the clothing. We've rediscovered the crimson wool. We've rediscovered the, how do you say tchelet, the blue thread. We've rediscovered all that. A lot of this process has been rediscovering what we already knew. And the red heifer is actually probably the last part of that puzzle. First of all, the red heifer is not a sacrifice.
Okay.
Okay, because the red heifer takes place outside of the camp, which in the desert was outside the tabernacle. In the temple times, it was on the Mount of Olives in a very specific spot that we know where it is. What happened was we were very blessed to bring over the 5 baby cows from Texas. There's a problem that the requirements for the cow are very stringent. They can have no more than 2 non-red hairs. They can never have had any weight put upon them. They can't have any blemish at all. But those are the requirements. The big problem being, of course, the non-red hairs. And so what happened was 3 of the cows became unsuited for the ritual. 2 of them are still potentially viable. So on July 1st, they did a dry run with an actual Kohen and one of the red heifers that had become unsuited. And they did it, and they did it specifically in Shomron, in Samaria, not on the Mount of Olives. But they did use a Kohen, a kosher Kohen. Now, in Jewish communities, we all know precisely who the Kohanim are. We have been very, very strict about protecting that tradition. We know who the Kohanim are. Every Kohen today, it can be proved genetically that they're descended from Aaron the priest. It's inscribed on their gravestones. They're chosen for specific and very public honors in the community. So everyone in the community knows who our Kohanim are. But for the purposes of the red heifer, we needed someone who had been born at home. It had to be a person who never left Israel, and also a person who'd never entered a cemetery. Also, Kohanim are, of course, not permitted to marry converts. So a Kohen wearing the specific clothes actually carried out the ceremony, but it was in Shomron with a unsuited cow. So it was absolutely not for the ritual purposes at all. The problem was, and the Temple Institute requested that people not film it and not publicize it, but people being people, they did film it. The cow was not suited. It was done in Shomron. And it's clearly, you can see in the videos, it's not on the Mount of Olives. Mount of Olives was pretty distinctive. Millions of people saw saying precisely that it was a kosher ritual, and that the ashes are ready, and that we can start using them, and that the rabbis are hiding it. And that's not true.
I saw a post by Byron that said that it was real. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah.
So the heifer was unqualified.
Correct. I need to say something. There's not only Byron, but also the Temple Institute came out with a statement saying that all of the cows were disqualified. That statement was inaccurate. In fact, only three of them had been disqualified, and two were still potentially good. He is a total devout Christian who loves Israel beyond words and has dedicated his life to Israel. But he's not a Torah scholar. And the Temple Institute has been studying, I mean, we have the Jewish sources, but they've gone even further studying the text for the last 15 years. I think that Byron, what he said was not accurate. It has to be done on the Mount of Olives. A lot of people go, but it's not written in the Bible. No, but it was done on the Mount of Olives until the destruction of the temple. So you're going to say that they did it wrong for 2000, and we know precisely where the spot is. Of course, we know about it from the Talmud. And a lot of people say, the Talmud's written by men. Yeah, it was written by men who were living in the temple and who saw the red heifer done in front of their eyes. You can't get better than that.
Yeah.
And they know all the intricate details. And the Rambam calls it the most enigmatic mitzvah in the entire Torah. Anyone who says they understand the red heifer, well, if so, they're the first person in human history who understands the red heifer.
Why did they need to do the practice if they had it documented?
Because there are 1,000,001 details. We also have new challenges that they didn't have in the time of the temple. Every time, except for the first red heifer, which was burned by Moses, every time they prepared a red heifer, and there were only 9 of them until the destruction of the temple, they had the ashes of the previous heifer. They were already pure. We're in uncharted territory here. Just how do you wield the knife? How is the cow going to lie? It has to be facing the Holy of Holies with its body lying perpendicular to that. How does that work? All of the sacrifices, they should be doing this for the daily offering, by the way. Every year they do a reenactment of the Passover offering. And every year they learn something new. Like the first year, it has to be roasted on a pomegranate branch. And a lot of those details, unfortunately, have been forgotten, and we have to work them out. Crimson wool, we had to refigure it out. Someone kept the ashes from the practice offering, which is a big problem. Because let's say it was kosher. It's forbidden to use sanctified things for purposes that they were not intended for. We call it me'ilah. So, for example, you can't, play baseball in your Kohen clothing. You can't bring an offering for one thing when it's supposed to be for something else. You can't use temple objects for non-temple things. So the ashes were meant to purify. So either the cow was not kosher and they can do whatever they want with the ashes, or the cow was kosher and it's not nice and it's very disrespectful, but you can use the ashes for other stuff. Do we know where the previous ashes were? Well, no. But that being said, we know that there were stashes of ashes all over the country. If a person became ritually impure for some reason, he didn't necessarily have to go all the way to Jerusalem to be purified. The local Kohen would have a stash of ashes and sprinkle him. It didn't have to be done in the temple. It wasn't done in the temple because you couldn't go into the temple until you were purified. There are rumors that there is a stash of ashes in Qumran by the Dead Sea. I think it's very credible. There's good reason to believe that's accurate. There are probably ashes all over the country. You have all of the utensils. Every feast, there is a ritual, a reenactment of the temple service. All these things are happening, even more amazing things. I spoke to a person who had a sardonyx, a stone from the priest's best breastplate that they had handed down in their family from the Crusades. There is so much happening, so much, it's insane. And it's happening faster and faster.
Yeah, definitely. And I've been to the Temple Institute recently and seen all the things they have that are like ready to go.
And there's even a guy, God bless him, he lives near a quarry. So every once in a while, he'll go out and get a rock and he'll say, in the name of building the temple, may God bless it. And he carves a stone. So there's a guy carving stones for the third temple.
I saw a video of he made the cornerstone already. Are you talking about that guy?
Yeah, that guy.
Okay.
He made the cornerstone was not small.
And then you mentioned that there's 2 red heifers that are still potential.
Correct. Potential.
Okay. So are there going to be more sacrifices?
I don't know. They didn't tell me about this one before it happened, but we're really close, and all of this misinformation does a lot of damage, and they're not very good at communicating.
Do you know which heifer it was? Was it Segula or was it a different one?
Tikva. It was Tikva.
I also heard you mention in another interview about starting the temple service in 3 hours. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Everything's ready. Everything is ready. If the government said to us, start the temple service, everything is ready. We would get like 10 strong high school boys, give them each a stone, tell them run up to and there's even a prepared altar that's on a frame that can be driven up and lowered with the crane onto the Temple Mount. Everything is ready. The Kohanim, the priests are trained, the priests are ready, the priests have their clothes. Also, in Jewish law, there's a concept called lechatchila and b'diavad. Lechatchila is the ideal way to do something. B'diavad is like, so you don't have the ideal. Can you still do it? Okay. And lechatchila, we can't. Everything is not there. Lechatchila, ideally, we should have a temple. We should have a certain kind of altar. We should have everything in a certain way. But the default, what we're stuck with, we could do it in 3 hours and everything would be kosher. For example, when the Hasmoneans restarted the temple service for Hanukkah, they didn't have a menorah. The menorah had been stolen. So they took some metal spears, stuck them in the stones, and turned them into the menorah. Is it kosher? Yes. Is it the ideal? No, of course not. So we could start the temple service in 3 hours. And ideally, we should all be pure. But if we're not, we're still required to do the offerings. So we could start it in 3 hours.